Hello, welcome to Mediasplode episode 54, What We Watched Over the Holidays. My name is Conor Kilpatrick, and I'm here with Josh Flanagan.
Hi there.
And Ron Richards.
Hey, guys. Good to be here on camera, on video.
We're back from the holidays. We haven't done this show since November. And,
I forgot we do this, that after almost 2 months, we build up a queue of everything that we've been watching. And thus we didn't need to plan this episode.
And we machine gun through it.
Yeah.
So this show is unlocked by the patrons at patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks for being a patron. If you are one, please consider being one today. And this is the show where we talk, like Ron just said, talk about everything we sort of watched over the holidays. Not everything, but a lot of the things we watched over the holidays.
The highlights.
And we're going to try not to spoil anything. But if you're really sensitive about that, you might want to use the show notes to hop over bits that you're worried about.
And there's going to be a lot of show notes because there's a big old list of a lot of things to talk about. So
we're going to kick things off with the movies. There was movies we saw this over the break. And Josh, why don't you start us off with what you watched?
Now, you're not going to hear as much from me as the other guys because they mainline material a lot more than I do. But I managed to pick out a couple of things. I watched Fly Me to the Moon at home. And I didn't know anything about what it was in any way other than there's 2 stars in it. And it has something to do with the 60s space race. And
it's Greg Berlanti.
Yeah, it's Greg Berlanti, which I didn't know.
The director.
Yeah, I didn't know whether to trust that or not.
Well, yeah, because Greg Berlanti, who is the Berlanti verse of Arrow and Flash and all the CW, DC superhero shows. So the concern was this just a TV movie?
It was better than that. It's
very
clever.
Expensive.
It was, and that was on the screen. Yeah. Basically, what you have is they're trying to drum up support for the Apollo program after the deaths of the 3 astronauts. And it starts off and you're like, oh, is this a retelling of history or is it like an alternate kind of history? And it's a little bit of both. I think that you could count Channing Tatum here as like kind of like a combination of Deke Slayton and Ed Harris. I forget. I was trying to remember the vest guy, Gene
Kranz.
Gene Kranz.
The main characters are fictionalized version. This relationship, this romantic comedy aspect of it is fake, but the rest of it.
But what this does is introduce a new element where they're simultaneously shooting the fake moon landing in case things go badly, and therein lies the drama.
So featuring an excellent Woody Harrelson,
who, and as I watched it the entire time, I thought, I don't know that anyone has ever had more fun playing a role than I think Woody Harrelson is having playing this role. Like straight up, Jim Rash, really funny, very over the top. Not to be too lascivious, but like Scarlett Johansson's made to wear 60s clothes. Like it's just like I was like, she just looks amazing in every scene. And obviously Channing Tatum is very attractive also, but that's why you go to movies. I enjoyed it. I didn't really know it. Like it's not perfect. There's definitely a little, I don't know, DV about it, but not a lot. Just enough that I was like, okay, it's not like a prestige movie, but a good time, fun, an area of great interest to me. And
it's a romantic comedy in the way they don't make them for the big screen, which they didn't really make this for the big screen. But yeah, I mean, I saw it in the theaters when it came out on the limited run that Apple did for it, but it's a very expensive romantic comedy, but it's a romantic comedy and it's fun and everyone's charming and what you want in a romantic comedy. I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Cool. So when we recorded the last Mediasplode where we talked about our top movies of the year, stuff like that, we had our disclaimer that it was only movies we'd watched up to the beginning of December, right? And so
the All Media show. Yep.
Yeah, the All Media show. So so the month of December and January, at least for me, partially for me, I know Connor, you do as well, is like the rush to watch all the other movies that have come out in 2024 ahead of the awards ceremony, stuff like that. So I booted up Netflix and tuned into Emilia Pérez, which is a movie that has been getting a ton of acclaim up to this point. It just won the Golden Globe, so it's getting a little more of a push in the awards race. This definitely falls under damn you Netflix, because I would have liked to have seen this in the theater. but it only had like a 3-week run in limited cities. I think it was playing at one theater in Manhattan during that run, which is a pain in the butt. But given the musical element of this, like I waited till the kids were at school and watched it at like 9 a.m. so I could turn the volume all the way up and like actually like try to create the theater experience as much as I could.
I haven't turned the volume up in years.
I know. So I was glad I did that. I see where all the hype about this movie it comes from. Like, it was very, very well done. For those who don't know, the high level story is Zoe Saldana is a lawyer from Mexico City who gets hired by a drug kingpin, a drug cartel leader, and he hires her to facilitate his transition to become a woman. And so she finds the doctor to do it and figures out how to, separate him from his family, and he transitions, and then it catches up years later when they meet up again, and then gives some good back into the world. And then, of course, everything goes wrong. But it's also a musical.
Well, it's a French film.
So it's a French director. Is produced out of France. And it is a musical, more in the opera, like operatic kind of approach. But if anything, this is probably more akin to a Baz Luhrmann-esque movie without the razzle dazzle, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. In the way that Baz Luhrmann integrated music into his musicals and things like that. Selena Gomez is also in it. She sings. Zoe Saldana sings. Carla Sofia Gasson, the lead, who plays Emilia Pérez, she also sings. And so it was very, very good. I don't know if it's the best picture of the year. I don't know if it knocks Sonora off my list, but I definitely see why a lot of people are talking about it, and would encourage everybody to check it out for sure. So very well done.
Over the holiday break, when during the Christmas time, I went to 4 movies in 4 days, starting with Gladiator II, which is still in theaters, although you can also rent it right now. And it was fun, but it was like a pale echo of
yes,
what I think was one of the best films of the early 2000s, Gladiator. But it was still enjoyable. It just wasn't a great movie.
I was really glad to go see it, and I was very happy that I did, but I was like, well, it wasn't Gladiator.
Would you rather see his 3-4 hour cut that exists somewhere or something?
Maybe. I mean, nothing was bad about it. It just wasn't as good as Gladiator. And what was cool about the break and seeing those 4 movies in 4 days was every theater, every screening I went to was at least 80% sold out. So I guess everyone was sort of going to the movies. And so even this movie that had been out at this point for over a month was 80% sold out. And so it was fun to see it in a big theater with a lot of people. And it's crowd-pleasing stuff. And Denzel...
Couldn't put a finger on that guy, could you?
No. There's one point where he just leans into a line reading and basically goes almost horizontal while walking. And it was just like, I don't know, this guy existed in ancient Rome, but I love it.
Yeah. So, Josh, did you see this, or?
Yeah, no, I made a point to go see this in the theater because I loved Gladiator.
It's a fun sword and sandals thing. It's not great, but it was enjoyable.
Yep.
And that's I was actually, I don't want to spoil anything. I was surprised how much it tied into the first movie. I'll just say that.
Yes, a lot.
Well, he's his son, right?
I'm not saying anything.
Come on.
No, I know he is, right? No, that's not a twist. That's how it was. Like,
I didn't know.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's how everything I read about it. Everything was that it was like in the reviews. It came out straight out saying.
When I say I don't want to spoil things, that means don't say things that happen in the movie.
I thought that was well known already. I'm sorry.
I knew nothing about the movie walking in.
Yeah. So,
A Complete Unknown, which is one of the films I saw in the 4 movies in 4 days.
What?
This is one of my 4 movies in 4 days I saw was Complete Unknown.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Yeah. So Bob Dylan biopic, Timmy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan, directed by James Mangold. I have a growing resentment towards music biopics because they just drive me crazy because they, gloss over so much and there's only so much they can do. This wasn't as bad as the Queen one or the Elton John one. But this is actually quite enjoyable. My favorite aspect
Mangold did the Johnny Cash one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And Johnny Cash is
Walk the Line. Yeah. I thought Chalamet did a great job. I thought Ed Norton was fantastic as Pete Seeger. I thought the production design, they rebuilt Greenwich Village in Jersey to shoot this movie. They did practical sets, and it looked amazing. So yeah, great time at the theater. Me and my wife went, and she loves Dylan and folk music, so she was very, very happy with it and has been listening to the records ever since. So yeah, it was. I give it a thumbs up. I liked it.
I had a really good time watching it. I like biopics. I love the Elton John movie.
I did too.
But I think what you say is not wrong. You can't do everything in an artist's life. This is only a short period of time from this time he starts out.
Well, yeah, but also
goes electric, and then all the stuff in the middle. You just gotta have to. It's all this movie's almost like song to song to song to song to song.
Yeah,
more than most of the biopics. But
I feel like those Mangold ones are the most like Dewey Cox, which have just been, and it was like. And there's like Johnny Cash looks down at the line and he walks along it. And you're like, all right.
There's a couple stuff that's super on the nose. And of course there's stuff that they manipulate for the sake of storytelling, like stuff that, but you can't get lost in the details. But seeing Dylan walk up to the Chelsea Hotel to go be with Joan Baez like that, those you can't get away from the essence of that. And that is, and that's what made the movie what works and what it did.
There's one thing in it that really, I had never seen before in a movie, which was one of the things that happens when he's first in New York is the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I'd never seen that portrayed from on the ground. What was the reaction if you were just a regular person living in the world, not, in Washington trying to stop it? Like, what was it like in Manhattan when they thought they were all going to die?
Yep.
I thought that was really interesting. I've never seen that movie before. Yep. People are having sex who shouldn't be having sex with each other. People are freaking out on the streets. Like, they all thought they were going to die. And so I'd never seen that in a movie before. And also, it's going to lead to perhaps one of the greatest moments in TV history, which is going to be Timothy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
guest in a few weeks, which I think is the most crazy thing I've ever heard.
It's just him trying to get the Oscar.
I know that. What I'm saying is, I've never. Austin Butler didn't do that. He didn't go up there pretending to be Elvis.
Yeah, I know. Josh, there's one. Have you seen this yet, Josh? Or
no?
There's one moment in it that's when they're recording like a Rolling Stone. There's one just ham-fisted like, let's make this as obvious as possible with the organ part. Where I was just like, as a music, I was like, oh, come on. but once the music hit, I was like, I moved on. I didn't care. It was just, but it was.
I think, and that's the thing is that they can these kind of movies. They always leave me wanting because it's such an overview, and I know it has to be. It's fine, but like, I love musical biographies, and so there's never enough room to get into it. So you have to lean into the performance-y stuff.
And the acting here is really good. So this is
what
we're seeing.
Yes, The guy who played Johnny Cash was awesome.
He's that guy who's in everything now.
Oh, I want to see September 5 so badly.
Another movie from that 4 days and 4 movies was September 5th, which was an early release in LA. Comes out wide in January.
I think it's out already. Yeah, I think it's
playing. Hour and a half. It's a tight hour and a half.
Oh, that's great.
It's this might have been my favorite of the 4.
I can't wait to see it. I cannot wait.
It's a super tight thriller. The high level is that during the Munich Olympics, when the Palestinian terrorist group takes the Israeli team hostage, the ABC sports team was the only people that were close enough to actually cover it live. They had somebody inside already. Everyone else was blocked from getting into it. So it's all taking place except for a few scenes in the airport. And if you know what happened, then you know why. It all takes place in the control room of ABC Sports, and it's like a political thriller. It's a TV production thriller. It's an analog dream. You watch it, they show you how they made the titles and how they came up with bugs.
And you're burying the lead that it's Peter Sarsgaard and John Magaro, who's in the agency currently. We're going to talk about in a little bit.
John Magaro is the lead. Peter Sarsgaard's got the top billing here, but John Magaro is the lead of the film.
And he's good, right? I've heard he's really good.
Everyone's terrific in the movie. It was. I walked out of it shaking because it was such a good thriller, even though I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a really well done movie.
It finally opens here next week, so I'm excited to go see it. So
everyone should see it. But all 3 of us have different Venn diagrams of interest of why we would enjoy this movie. Yeah. As from a TV production movie, it's like great. Like, how did they do things in the 60s, 70s without
in Germany, like in another?
Well, it was the first Olympics being shown live in satellite, so it was the first, Paris attack shown live. So they were a sports team. They weren't used to covering this kind of thing. So it was a very interesting thing. How did they deal with this? It was very, very, very good.
Cool. So so at some point over the holidays, I found myself, I think my wife was sick and went to bed and the kids were in bed. I'm like, well, I guess I'll watch Conclave because it was on Peacock. And knowing that it got a lot of Oscar buzz. This is the Ray Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, inside the conclave after the Pope dies of the voting to decide who's the next Pope. And this was garbage. I hated this movie so like I haven't hated a movie as much as I hated this since like The English Patient, which ironically was very fine.
I got that out of the trailer. Like I just thought this isn't gonna work.
No, don't get me wrong. I will say the good things about it. Sure. It looked beautiful.
Yeah,
shot beautiful. I will watch Stanley Tucci and John Lithgow and Ray Fiennes, like and Isabella Rossellini, who was underused. Like totally, you had her and you only had her in like 2 scenes, but they were all great. The story itself was just so talk about a TV movie. It was just like so ham-fisted, and the ending was just dumb.
Well, don't talk about the ending. I liked 80% of it. I thought it was a really interesting thriller. In a low stakes, not as low stakes because the Pope's a big deal, but it's not like there's a murder or a bomb. It's about voting for the Pope, and the acting is all terrific. There was one point though where they're all wearing the big white hats and they're like nodding, and I just started laughing because it was just looked so ridiculous. But I thought the ending fell flat, and I thought it was simultaneously obvious and came out of nowhere, and then
it was just so on the nose and just like, hey, when God closes a door, he opens a window. Like it was just like, come the fuck on. It was so.
I found it disappointing. I liked it ultimately, but I didn't think it was great after the end.
It was not good. So
The Brutalist was the final film I saw in my 4 days of films. There was a joke recently that you've never heard of The Brutalist unless you live within walking distance of the Vista Theater in LA, because it's only playing at like 2 theaters in the entire world.
It's made like $1 million in box office. That's it. Like
3.5 hours with a built-in 20-minute intermission. When I went into the theater at 1 o'clock, I came out at 5.
I can't. I just need to find the time to do it. Like that's the thing. Again, I haven't seen it because I cannot find 6 hours to go into Manhattan, go to a 3.5 hour movie, and then come home.
It's not 3.5. It's 3. It's 4 with the intermission plus whatever pre-show there is. So,
but it's filmed in VistaVision, right, or Panavision?
Filmed in VistaVision. I saw it in 70 millimeter at the Vista Theater in Packed House.
I literally have not heard of this or seen it anywhere else.
If you don't live within,
like what I'm saying, like. If you two keep mentioning it fucking constantly, and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
it's.
I can't wait to see
I put in
70.
no effort.
I can't wait to see it in 70. Oh man,
it is. It's. I go back and forth. I put it on my top 9 at the end of the year on Instagram. I sometimes it falls out depending on what I think of it. It's such an interesting movie that I go back and forth on how it's a work of art for sure. It's beautifully shot. There's some amazing performances. At times, Adrian Brody comes too close to his portrayal of Salvador Dali in Midnight in Paris. But
really?
But he plays a brutalist architect. You know, brutalism was a post-war style of architecture and design, and he comes from he's a post-war refugee to America, and then that's the story. It's the story of what being a post-war refugee in America does to him. But he's all about brutalism, and he brings that to the world, so at least to this corner of America he's in, and that's the whole sort of. That's why it's called a brutalist. But
good. Thumbs up.
I don't know. I think it's great, and sometimes I think it's weird, and sometimes I think it's disappointing. I know I liked the first half up to the intermission way more than I liked the second half. Like I was in on the intermission hit, and I was like, "Damn, this is great."
Yeah.
And then when it ended, I was like, "Huh." So it's. I think the second half has problems, but the first half is amazing, and the score is amazing. The Trent Reznor score, the cast is really, really good. But it's no one's going to see it, so it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just won the Golden Globe, so now it's getting a kind of a more of a push for the Oscar. So we'll see. Who knows?
So now let's jump to television. The reason why we're really here to talk about The Pitt.
Can we just cut the rest of the show out?
We might, depending on how long we go.
That's a possibility, though.
So, we watched a bunch of TV in December and early January, and we have a whole list. But The Pitt from Max just came out. We're recording this Saturday, January 11th. This just came out on January 9th. 2 episodes dropped, and I was in front of my TV. The episode came out at 9 p.m., which, by the way, I almost threw something because I was at my TV at 8 p.m. ready to go, and I had to wait another hour. This is the not ER
pilot.
This is so Noah Wyle and John Wells reunited for a medical drama that takes place in an emergency room in a hospital in Pittsburgh, borrowing the format from 24, where there's 15 episodes and each episode represents an hour of a single day shift And oh my God, this is the only show I ever want to watch again. I loved it. Loved it.
I had to like squint to pretend it was ER because it's shot exactly like ER. It's shot exactly like ER. John Wells directed the first episode. It looks exactly like ER.
John Wells directed and wrote it. And I'm like, you can tell me this isn't ER all you want, but you wrote John Carter and he's playing John Carter.
Well, it was developed. It was developed as a John Carter.
I get it,
show,
but there was no like, oh, I'm gonna play a completely different kind of character. I was like,
nope,
this is literally John Carter.
But guess what?
Years later,
I don't give a shit because
it was amazing.
As we're watching the show, me and my wife said, we're like, I just want Noah Wyle in my life. Like, I just want, like, there's a moment and Josh, you haven't seen it, but I'm not going to spoil it. But there's a moment in the second episode when everyone in a room is arguing and yelling, and he comes in and stops it and gets control of the situation. And I'm like, I love Noah Wyle. I love John Carter. I love Dr. Robbie, whoever this guy is. I don't give a shit.
People kept walking in and was like, okay, so that's Neela.
Yeah.
And over here, I was like, oh, that's Dr. Dave. Got it. All right.
But also the formula of the patients, like, oh, that's the one who's going to die.
Yep.
What I will say though,
I'm a runner. You're fucked.
Yeah. What I will say,
I'm a sweet old man.
What I did enjoy about this so far, after 15 years of watching Grey's Anatomy, is that like this isn't medical mystery Marvel of the week, right? No. This is like it is very grounded and real shit that happens to people, much like ER was in the beginning and that sort of thing. And it lacks, you know, the lighting is fluorescent lights. You know what I mean? Like even ER had more dramatic lighting with remember the spotlights in the trauma room and stuff like that, right?
The music was way more subtle.
Yeah, exactly. This lacks the embellishment that other medical dramas have. Which, say what you will about the ER comparison, this is different than other medical dramas now. In that,
and that's why people are loving it. I think I've seen a lot of articles saying it's refreshing because it's not all about romance and. You know, exactly. or Sherlock Holmesing a medical mystery. It's just like trying to survive in the ER, an underfunded ER. Hey, where have we seen that before? There was a scene early on in the first episode where they do the 1, 2, 3 lift the body.
Yep.
And I thought, does Noah Wyle feel like I'm home again, or does he go, oh fuck, like I'm doing this again? So I had
this conversation. I thought because it was like, well, why is he doing this? And there's he's so good. Okay, does he need money? I don't think so. I think he made a ton.
He's
of
done
money.
All right. Those Librarian movies did great for him.
No, like it's not even that. But like he lived right. So he lived in that era where he was on the biggest show in the world as the lead, and it went into syndication.
And he was one of the last of the original stars who stayed on the show.
Right.
So, he got
so he's it's not that right. Yeah. So 2 is he likes to act. We've seen that he wants to do his own things, but really the only conclusion you can come to is that like I really like doing this.
I'm good at that.
But just like, but that's the thing. Like he did that show for that whole time. He liked it.
Yeah,
and
like that's the thing. I love Noah Wyle. I didn't watch all the Librarian stuff. I watched Falling Skies. Remember, Connor? I love Falling Skies. Yeah. But even Falling Skies wasn't as good as ER. He's very good at being.
No, it wasn't. Duh.
And but again, like there were ways that they framed shots that were straight out of ER that are not. No other show shoots like that. And I was just like wow.
You can put Noah Wyle in there, but I was like, you have John Wells doing it. Like there's no.
Also, way more gory than the original ER.
Oh, there was a lot of looking away.
Yeah, there was a lot.
It's even worse in episode 2. There's a lot of blood.
Like I had to look away on ER.
Also, now post having children, I can't see anything with a kid with that go like there's a kid in the ER and I was like I had to get up and walk around because I was like, I was very nervous and
we would have kept watching it if it had been more episodes.
Yeah. Oh no, we would not have stopped. They can release this daily and we will watch it every day.
I'm telling you, I'm in severe danger of doing a 5th, 6th.
Well, that's what I said to Megan. Also, at the end of this. You know, Max goes, "Want to watch ER?" And I was like, "Yes, but I can't." And I had to stop the screen before it started the episode because I would have watched it.
Yeah,
there's no reason not to. Well, you watch ER because it's better than literally everything else, and you will get so much joy out of it.
So I think a universal thumbs up for my fanboy for the Pitt.
When this season ends, we're going to do a whole show on it.
Yeah, I'm what I love about it is it's weekly and it's 15. It's not 6 episodes. It's none of this prestige TV 6 episodes, whatever. And we're gonna drop all of them at once. No, it is a 15 episode one that's going to be weekly for the next. I
just assumed it was 6.
No, for the next 13 weeks. Josh, I just made your day. For the next 13 weeks, we have Noah Wyle in our living room on Thursday night. Life does not get better than this.
Although if it had been ER, it would have been better. That's the only thing I was like, damn it, why is this ER?
I'm okay with it. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Because they would have somebody would have said Morgenstern.
I will. Whoever wrote that in Vulture, I will give them. Right. I will give them that credit. There was somebody in one of the many write-ups. This show's gotten so many write-ups, by the way, which is funny. But one of the write-ups, somebody said, I would much rather watch the Pitt get its legs than watch an ER revival do a Weekend at Bernie's, do that again. I totally agree.
Because it would have been as good as this. It just would have been in Chicago with a couple more actors we recognize. That's all the difference would have been.
Yeah. It's interesting that there's like no one else in this I recognize, at least in the first.
No, they're all new actors.
One woman she was in The Wire. But other than that, I didn't know any of them.
Yeah, the administrator was one of the moms in The Wire.
Yeah, here it is. I would rather watch the Pit figure itself out than watch an ER revival that is Weekend at Bernie's being a premise, which I totally agree. And another great quote from a review was, it's simple, deceptively so, and if it's so close to one of the greatest medical dramas in TV history that you could close your eyes and mistake one for the other, who's complaining?
Because he's not Carter. He's Rabinovich or whatever his name is.
Because the reality is that Carter is Carter got a little too towards the end, right? Like
it's Candy Newton's fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
all right.
So
I guess we got to talk about some other things.
15 episodes. We got 13 more to go. It's a 15-hour shift. It's gonna be amazing. I love it.
See, we were going through so there's this guy and that's this one. She goes, well, who's the Peter Benton in the show? I said, wait till the credits come up and he's gonna be the guy who punches. That'll be who it is. But
there isn't like an arrogant surgeon on the main staff.
That guy with the butt chin, that's Dr. Dave.
I like that guy.
Slash
that
Doug
guy's
Ross.
Pretty good. That guy's not bad.
Connor, you take back what you said.
No, because I don't know if it was episode 2, but there's a part where there's a kid in trouble. He goes running as soon as that was the Doug Ross bit.
But come on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's what Doug would have done.
Yeah. You know what?
Dad did it.
If like some episode, like episode 8, randomly down the line, like George Clooney shows up to do like a consult and he's not Doug Ross, I would shit myself.
Right, but let's be honest, George Clooney's not showing up for this.
What else
you want me to fly back from Lake Como for what?
I'm just saying, like it would be the most, even more so.
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
I would start weeping on the couch. Not as Dr. Green, as a different doctor from Pittsburgh. I would start weeping on the couch.
Yeah, that's the point.
Dr. Brown. He's Dr. Brown.
He's Dr. Brown. Ooh.
There's so many people that they could just put in here.
I could see Sherry Stringfield popping up again, right?
That one R2 nurse looks like a really ragged Samantha.
The nurse, the charge nurse is very good.
She's great.
That woman is very, very good. Yeah. So
all right, let's move on.
So
anyways, more about the Pit.
I'm so glad you guys liked it.
I jumped into Nobody Wants This. Ron talked about this on our year-end show. It's a 10-episode romantic comedy on Netflix and loved it. Binged it in like 2 sittings. Kristen Bell, Adam Brody have tons of chemistry. Every podcast scene made me want to shoot myself.
Yep.
But everything else was great, and including his Brody's brother, the guy from Veep, who is hysterical.
He's good.
Josh, you got to watch it if you like that guy. He's so funny.
He's very good.
I love that guy. He's the funniest. He's so fucking funny.
I'm glad you liked it, Connor.
Yeah. I after finishing, I looked up some reviews thinking it would get great reviews. Like the Times gave it a pan. Variety gave it a horrible pan.
It was a certified hit, though.
Which I don't understand because that was a huge hit in terms of people watching it. But they were all talking about how it wasn't prestige TV. It's like it was just a romantic comedy. Yeah, it was a romantic comedy. It was really well done.
How great is Adam Brody? Isn't he just
He's really
delightful?
Good. They're really good together.
Yeah.
There's a couple of really brilliant episodes. I think there was only one I thought was not that great, but everything else was
so really Connor, good. My big issue with Nobody Wants This, which you'll share, which you can understand having living in LA, is Adam Brody's magical ability to park next to wherever they're going in the show.
Every TV show ever.
No, but in LA it's particularly bad.
To me, it's more like they've all got gigantic $5 million houses. At least Adam Brody's family is wealthy, so that makes sense. But I don't know how she has a giant house.
That's classic TV.
Yeah, that's
Well, they make a point of talking about it for him because he's a rabbi. He's got this giant house, but
for me, it's just the parking. I mean, I'm like, I know where they are. You can't park right there.
The strange thing to me is
you're not allowed to complain about people getting lucky parking.
The strange thing to me, though, is it's based on this on what's her name's real life. She does a podcast. She should know how they work.
Yeah, I know.
Like at one point, I'm like, is this a video podcast? Is it an audio podcast? They
don't even know. They don't have
conversations with people who are not on microphone on the show. Like
they're not even talking into the microphones on their own show. It's like
the one girl's waving it around while she talks. I'm like, I'm gonna die.
It's painful.
I'm gonna die if they don't stop this stuff.
That's why I was like, that's the only, like, I don't want to see any podcast stuff.
It's that bad. Like it's technically wrong. Like
their mother's. It's a show about two sisters. The mother constantly talks to them, and they talk to her on the show, but she's not mic'd. She's like 20 feet away.
Yeah.
Do they play? They should play the audio of it that sound like you can do. Yeah, no, like can they go back and see that would be compelling.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway, all that aside, they are great together, and it's really fun romantic comedy.
Yeah, good stuff. So the one theme of me and my wife's TV watching this past month has been a lot of spy stuff. We're in a spy zone, and that was kind of kicked off with The Agency, which is on Paramount Plus. This is the Michael Fassbender, Jeffrey Wright, Richard Gere. Why are they doing a TV show? 10 episode. So this is an adaptation of the. Yes, I'm current.
Okay,
this is an adaptation of. No, I think it's 8 episodes, not 10 episodes, Connor.
No, it's 10.
I thought it was 8. I thought the finale.
The 8th episode aired yesterday.
Wasn't that the finale?
Not according to what was said on the thing. So 10 episodes.
Anyway, regardless, this is an adaptation of the French show. What was it?
Say French words. I love it.
Les Agency, Les Department,
so
something like that. But Michael Fassbender is a CIA agent who gets pulled out of being undercover and immediately pushed into a middle management job in London, which I thought is kind of odd. And it's just great spycraft. I don't know, Connor, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I started watching it because I thought last year I watched a lot of Slow Horses, and I thought, man, I really want to watch a spy show on my break. I just feel like
it is 10. You're right. I'm sorry, it is 10.
I should be watching a spy show, and so this came on, and I thought the first episode was a interminable slog, and I was like, fuck. Every episode after that's been terrific.
Fassbender, I much like Noah Wiley, I could just watch Fassbender just live his life, and he's like,
typecast though. This is the same character he played on that Hitman show,
The Killer. Yeah,
he's doing another spy movie with Soderbergh. It's like he needs to do a comedy. He needs to do something.
Yeah,
but
I don't care because I'm happy watching it. Like
every episode's been great since then. Jeffrey Wright was really good. I thought the last episode really got to show off Richard Gere when he has the meeting with the Chinese spy.
Yep,
like it's been terrific. It's all wrapped up in Russia and China and
Ukraine,
fighting over Africa and Ukraine, and it's all based in London, shot in London.
It's good stuff.
Really, really, really good.
So what is interesting about it is that it's a very talky side of spy show. There is some action, but there's a lot of like maneuvering and what do they mean by that stuff. And real spy stuff. And then if you jump to the next show, we started watching on Netflix Black Doves, which is a 6-episode series starring Keira Knightley and Ben Whishaw, where spycraft in the same time, but way more action. A lot more action sequences in Black Doves. Long story short, Keira Knightley is a member of a secret organization called Black Doves, where she has been installed as the wife of a high level British minister, and stuff happens, and her.
Is she a Black Widow?
She's kind of Black Widow.
That's what I was hearing.
Now that said, the Ben Whishaw, who played Q in the Bond movies, he is fantastic as a trigger man, as an assassin, and this has been a lot of fun as a counterpoint to The Agency, where The Agency was a lot of realistic, political, cerebral spycraft. Black Doves is action-based, doesn't actually mean anything. Yes, there's an intrigue with China and the US and the UK, but this is really more about the relationships than the political intrigue side of it. So they're interesting to, kind of two sides to a coin. But both very, very good. A lot of fun.
Josh, I forgot to mention that on The Agency, Jimmy McNulty has the best job in Hollywood, where he just appears via Zoom sometimes.
Yeah.
He gets paid for that as the head of
Ben
CIA.
Whishaw was in a show with you said Jimmy McNulty and Bush Blast his real name, by the way, called The Hour.
Yes.
And they were both very good in that show.
Yeah. Josh?
I randomly saw The Detroiters on Netflix. I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of it. In fact, I wasn't entirely sure who Tim Robinson was, other than a guy who showed up in a lot of Instagram reels. And I was like, they seem to think this guy's funny. And then I didn't.
He was on SNL, got fired after one seain, and then blew up on his own after SNL.
So, but I'm very familiar with Sam Richardson. As earlier you'd said, guy who plays Jonah. Well, Sam played Richard Splett, who's maybe the funniest thing on The Funniest Show. So I thought I'm going to give this a try. And man, right away, it's one of the funniest, most clever shows I've seen in forever.
I've heard really good things about it. The Tim Robinson guy kind of bothers me. He's off-putting.
He is off-putting, but I think they lean into it in just the right way. He's extremely like his face is fucking funny.
Yeah.
And the deal here is that it's one of those shows like Portlandia, or like it just kind of celebrates the city of Detroit. The idea was like you only ever see it in the worst lights, and it's all the great things, and all the actors for the most part are local. And like the premise is that like these guys are two best friends, and it's not about they just love each other and they believe in each other, and all sorts of extremely funny shit happens around them. It is brilliant. I mean, like, I'm not overselling it. It was, and it's kind of positive brilliant. It's not like, it's not like everything in the world sucks. It's like Veep is like everybody's awful and everything. It's kind of a happy show, and it's great. It's shockingly good.
I watched 2 seasons of Bad Sisters on Apple TV Plus. The first season, this is an Irish show about a family of sisters who keep falling into murder, and
that'll happen.
The first season features one of the most despicable characters I've ever seen on television. He's the person who's murdered, and for good reason. And he is one of the most vile people I've ever seen on a television show. And he ends up having to get killed. But it unfolds in a fun way where in the first season you don't know how or who or why he gets killed until the very end. But each episode he could have it's a great group of actors. It's very funny Irish actors, including
Sharon Horgan,
and the woman from Fiona and Son, and then just delightful. The other Gleason brother is in the first season, which I didn't even know existed.
This one is on. Remember, we did the list of like shows that are on my list that I'm meaning to watch that we assigned each other one. That this has been on my list of like when I get around to it. I've heard good things.
You and your wife would enjoy the first season. I think the second season was good, but not it had the classic feeling of, oh shit, we were a success. We got to do a second season, but we don't have a plan. Yeah, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as compelling as season 1, which was I thought a really incredible season. So and they're short. They're 10 episodes, then 8 episodes. They also did a shorter second season.
Cool. I heard good things about it. So my brother-in-law recommended A Man on the Inside, which wasn't on my radar, on Netflix, starring Ted Danson. Mike Schur is the showrunner from the guy who did The Good Place. 8 episodes. This was absolutely delightful. And if you guys are looking for a talk about like a nice escapism little sitcom 30-minute kind of thing, they filmed in San Francisco, which is great. Like they actually filmed on location, combination of LA for the interior, San Francisco for exteriors. But Ted Danson plays a retired widower who takes a job with a private investigator to go undercover in a retirement home, and it is very funny. It is like naturally funny, and you think retirement home and old people and like a lot of cliche jokes and things like that. They don't go in that direction. It had a bit of a joy of life to it. And of course it is a sitcom, and they're like, he's not pretending, but is undercover, and is also very, like imagine an 80-something-year-old pretending to be a spy. Like so that kind of leads into that trope. But this really surprised me how much I liked it. We blew through it in like a week. We were just like another Man on the Inside, and they're 30-minute episodes. Really, really strong show. So I think you guys both would enjoy it.
Ted Danson can sell anything.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So.
I've never watched Friends, and we were like one night trying to figure out what to do, and I don't remember.
Your wife has watched it though, didn't she?
Yeah, no, she did. She did. Yeah. I mean, she watched it when it was on, and then she actually watched through it like sometime during the pandemic. And like every once in a while, we would refer to something, like she'd be like pivot, and I would like, I don't know what that is. Like I just have never watched it. Yeah. And so we started, and then it's one of those things like we've watched through Seinfeld a bunch because you put them on and they make you happy and you watch through them and you can go through them because they're short, blah, blah, blah. It's sort of the same kind of thing, but I've never seen them. And my initial...
Well, how far did you make it so far?
I think I'm either at the beginning of season 3 or the end of season 2.
Okay.
So we're not...
Were they on a break yet? Were they on a break?
Oh no, I'm on season 3 because Matthew Perry clearly has a problem. I'm about midway through. No,
he lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, season 3, you're like, oh,
I remember that. Yeah,
I don't know if I can deal with that.
He's gonna yo-yo the whole time.
Yeah, no, I get it, and it's actually really sad. So I'm trying not to think about it.
Yeah,
but so my first, and it's been really consistent. Like it was a really fully formed show, really great from the beginning, which is pretty interesting. My thoughts are it's incredibly funny and well written. Like consistently, I laugh a lot, which I kind of, I was a snob, so I was like, I don't like network sitcoms, whatever. But it's really, however, there's certain things like there's often moments where like they'll have like a feeling for each other, and when they lean their head over and they have like a moment of real like how much they appreciate them. Like they would never do this on Seinfeld. But at the same time, my two takeaways are that Lisa Kudrow is a fucking genius, and she doesn't get nearly enough credit for the work. She's the Kramer of this, and is such a good and unique and interesting character in so many ways. And then also David Schwimmer is really fucking funny.
Yeah, they're all really funny.
No, really I know they are, but like it's one of those, like I feel like people don't talk about, like, they would talk about how Matthew Perry was really funny, and like I feel like people have undersold David Schwimmer, but he's incredibly funny, and you watch the things that he's doing even when he's not got lines and with his face. He's incredible. Also, somebody on this show really likes music and indie music.
Yeah, there was the street corner scene always had flyers from shows and stuff.
I've seen a lot of that. The first musical guest was like, what's her name? Chrissy Hind.
Did you must have? So if you're at season 3, you saw the ER crossover episode, right?
No, not yet.
That hadn't happened yet.
No.
I think it did, didn't it? That was like season 1 or season 2.
Maybe I did. I don't know.
I remember in college.
I did. Yeah, I did. That was
when Noah Wiley and George Clooney came on. Yeah.
There's a lot of guest stars throughout the 10 seasons. Yes. I think season 1 was freshman year or season 2 was freshman year.
Season 1 was we were in high school.
Yeah, season 2 was freshman year.
Season
3?
1, it was season 1. Josh.
Yeah. I did see it. I guess that one didn't make much of an impact on me.
Yeah.
Some of the later ones I didn't see because by that time, like season 8, 9, 10, it was not still funny, but we were off, Thursday nights. I was
absolutely. So, I was like, oh, there's a reason that this show plays constantly in the UK at all times.
Well, because it was based on coupling, right? Like it was based on a UK show. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I think it was the other way around. I think they tried.
Was it the other way around? Yeah, there was some relationship with the UK.
No, because the creators of the show based it on their lives in New York. It was a wholly unique show. And they tried to do a UK version.
there's a lot of cultural things.
Yeah,
that you're like, you're not sure how to talk about gay stuff yet, and like at the time. This was okay. It was like you can get away with this now.
It was the other way around. Coupling was based on Friends.
Yeah.
Coupling was the UK show. Yep.
So a couple years ago, I was working at this creative agency, and we had Warner Brothers and Max as a big client, and we'd have these weekly meetings where we would, talk about what we're working on, catching up, and I would only half pay attention when it was after I was done talking. And we had a creative director who was a super awesome guy in his like late 40s, and I was sort of half paying attention to his update. And he said, right now, I'm really focused on the sex lives of college girls, and I almost spit my drink out because I never.
Connor was like, I was too for many years.
I just started watching this past week. We needed it with all the terrible stuff going on in Los Angeles. We needed something dumb and funny to watch, so we started watching this. And this is the second Mindy Kaling based on my life show. The first one was Never Have I Ever on Netflix. I talked about that before. That was high school. This is college. If you're looking on the screen, the character on the right, clearly based on her, takes place in a fake Ivy League school in Vermont. She went to Dartmouth. It's really funny. It's really funny, and it's really capturing that college spirit of, you've got a million friends around you or people you can just talk to, and you just don't get that the older you get. And it's just really, really interesting. We just started season 2 now. It's 10 episode seasons. One of the leads is Timothée Chalamet's sister, and she lost a lot of weight in season 2. Clearly, because there's a lot of nudity.
Does she know
and
Matthew
sex.
Perry?
She's not. Well, I don't know, but there's a lot of nudity and sex in the show. So
season 3 with him, he was on the Percocets, and it was a problem.
Anyway, this is a fun 30-minute comedy set in college. It's funny. It's legitimate.
It's difficult not to notice that title on the Max home screen, and I was like, Josh, just don't.
I think Lindsay would really like it. Honestly, it's really funny.
I've heard similar things that like it is enjoyable, but yeah, that title is just hard to be like, oh, I'm watching the Sex Lives of College Girls. Like,
yeah, no, I
feel like I
my
should
drink out on the video call, the staff call when he said that same phrase out loud because I had never heard of it. It hadn't come out yet.
It sounds like a porn.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of nudity in it. But it's very funny.
Just mark that down.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I just can't stop going to the well. Star Wars Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus.
Is that Jude Law?
Jude Law's in it. Heard good things. So this is by John Watts, who directed Spider-Man: Homecoming and Spider-Man: Far From Home and all the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And Wolves, the most recent.
I didn't put it on the list, but I watched Wolves.
And going into it, a lot of the chatter was that this was like, Star Wars, Amblinized, like Spielbergized. And it was very like, it reminded me of the 80s Ewok movies, which also were very kind of Amblin-esque in that.
Is Wilford Brimley in this?
But sorry?
Is Wilford Brimley in this?
No, he's not. I wish he was. But the whole premise of this is that a bunch of kids on a planet stumble upon a ship and go up into the space and launch into hyperspace and have to try to get home. Right. And so it's very, kind of kid focused, kind of Goonies kind of esque set in the Star Wars universe. Jude Law plays a pirate that they run into, can they trust them? Can they not trust them? That sort of thing. Here's the thing is like, it started off really good. It started off really endearing. It started off really, again, feeling like a 80s Spielberg-y Goonies kind of approach in the Star Wars universe. And then it kind of went downhill from there. My biggest problem with it is that they introduced the concept of pirates, which I'm fine that there be pirates in the Star Wars world,
Yar.
but they brought the Yar, the pirate code and stuff like that from our world.
Just have him be a smuggler. That would be
exactly.
We had ice pirates. We don't need this.
Exactly.
Space herpes.
And that's what really kind of frustrated me was that they really leaned into the pirate thing.
Oh, that's not good.
In our culture definition of pirate, which doesn't exist in the Star Wars culture.
It does now.
Yeah, but beyond that, every episode less than 30 minutes, really tight.
Scooter mods, and now they have pirates.
I know, yeah. I did appreciate that the majority of the episodes all ended with them going into hyperspace or going to somewhere, and then the episode starts with them arriving in that place, which is like a nice little kind of chapter break, I like that as a thing. But and Jude Law has been fun in the role he's in. It's been mostly enjoyable, but that pirate thing just is a thorn in my side.
Is it mostly enjoyable the way you described most of these shows?
I would say.
Shows?
Oh, the Star Wars shows, yeah. Star Wars shows are mostly enjoyable in my mind. Yeah, they're like mid
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
No, what I mean is like they're not great. They're mostly enjoyable.
Exactly.
I would say. What was the?
Yes, we know there's
no.
There's other exceptions to the rules.
What was the one that was good?
Andor.
That
was great.
I thought Andor was mostly enjoyable.
Yeah,
like it was largely enjoyable.
Yeah. No. Anyway.
Okay.
I caught up on The Boys. It's one of those shows that I forget about every time, and it comes back, and I'm like, and then I start watching. I was like, actually, I forget. I really like this. This is really good.
This latest season was great.
It was really good. It was probably better than the last. It was certainly better than the last one.
Yep.
The thing that I keep coming back to over and over is I don't understand how they consistently are able to do the thing with Garth Ennis's work that is in the comics that no one else can do, is that weird line between being totally crass and gross and juvenile and then entirely emotionally affecting and connected in an adult, like, realistic way. And I mean, that's what I love about the man's comics. And I went to IMDb once, and it's like created by, I was like, someone who's not Garth Ennis, so I don't care. But it's, exceptionally just really well done, does a thing that like only Garth Ennis comics can do, and they do it in the show. In fact, as I've said, better than the comic book did. I didn't finish this comic book. I didn't like this comic book. But
this is like one of Prime's biggest shows.
Yeah. There's a bunch of spin-offs I'm not interested in, but the main show, it's great.
Have they said how long it's going to go for?
I think the next season's the last.
I can't imagine it. It shouldn't go more than another one. It doesn't feel like there's that much left.
It's very good, and you're right. The latest season was better. Season 4 was better than season 3. Because my whole problem with The Boys, and I think I talked about it in the Mediasplode, was just like, at the end of the day, at least from the TV standpoint, it's Carl Urban versus Homelander, and how are you going to tell that story differently every season, right? And that's really and they're starting to evolve that, and push that conversation beyond that being as the main pivot point.
Yeah, no, I think that, Huey definitely is. I think he pushed Carl Urban, the Butcher, out of that main spot. Solely anyway. And it's tough to keep thinking of new things to have Homelander do.
Right.
And he's so horrible.
When somebody who can't be killed or can't be stopped, what do you do then, right?
Well, you know what though? Like the couple of really cool things, and we don't have to keep, but like like he's aging. There was like a thing where he's finding the gray hairs, and like you can't stop that. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And then a lot of shows, again, they can't do kind of on the nose current political stuff, but the show got away with it to a certain extent. I can't remember her name, but the woman who becomes like his
Stormfront.
No, not in this last season. Like she's like the right wing at the gun rally.
Oh, right. Yeah. What's her face? Yeah. The firecracker or the whatever.
That's pretty on the nose, and it's hard to do that without seeming silly, but I thought it worked really well in the context of this world.
Landman is,
I know him,
Taylor Sheridan's latest show about hard men doing hard jobs that people in cities don't like to think about. A landman is the person on the ground for an oil company that deals with all the problems, and is the fix it man, the deals with all the problems, runs everything. Billy Bob Thornton, Demi Moore, John Hamm. He keeps getting these actors on these shows. It's really good, and Billy Bob Thornton is excellent in it. It's like a role made for him. It takes place on the Permian Basin. Billy Bob Thornton is from there. Josh, at one point, he goes to a football game. It's from the high school that Friday Night Lights was based on, where Billy Bob Thornton played the coach. Yeah, Permian Basin. It's in West Texas, and it's really good. It's on right now. Paramount Plus. It's not over yet. I think there's 2 episodes left, but it's just really enjoyable. It's one of his better shows. I think it's really well written. It's very funny, and it's ridiculous. And that's, I think, where Taylor Sheridan's magic lies, is in this sort of ridiculous vein. There's cartels. People get blown up. People get shot at. People die by accident. There's ill-advised romance. It's got everything you want in one of these shows.
So, Pop Culture Jeopardy on Amazon Prime, hosted by Colin Jost. Me and my wife have surprisingly been enjoying this. It's funny because Josh, you watched it before we watched it. I was like, "How was it?" And you kind of said it wasn't very good. But we've had an enjoyable experience watching it.
Maybe I kind of said that, but like, it's not like, my wife was super excited to watch it. She's like, this will be great. And I was like, we don't actually know a lot of pop culture anymore. And so like the way that it seemed to work every time is that the first act.
How many episodes did you watch?
3 or 4, not too long. But the first act is like shit I don't know. Like newer things. And then the second one was usually shit I know.
Yeah. So they break that mold. We're like 9 episodes in. It's gonna be a 40 episode run, which is crazy, which is awesome because it's a lot of it. I hate the format. What they've done is that it's Jeopardy, but what they've done is, instead of having 3 contestants, they have 3 teams of 3 people, and they're clearly leaning into the whole pub trivia popularity and the idea of having a trivia team and that sort of thing. But they've made, and it's classic, like once you get people who make TV and they do the bad parts of TV, they make each team pick a team name and then tell them to wear like similar clothes and like do a goofy thing when the show starts, and like all that shit just completely bores me. But Josh, to your point, there's a lot of shit in there, like memes and TikTok and recent music and stuff like that. Tonight, there was an episode where one category was just Kardashians, which I was like, well, fuck, I'm out for this one. But the counterbalance of that is that there have been a lot of categories that have been movies, have been TV, have been stuff that have been like, and there's a couple episodes where I'm like, shit, I could have been on the show. I could have done a really good job here.
The contestants never know the ones I know.
Exactly.
It's like literally movies from the 70s. I'm like, let's do this.
But it's a fun when we're looking for, when we've got 25 minutes to burn before we go to bed. It's a fun, it's fun. It's a fun way to end the day. Yeah.
He's a great host. And why he's doing this? I was like,
that's the big question. Like,
married to Scarlett Johansson.
He's
odd to do this.
He brings an interesting energy, and there's moments that we're laughing out loud, and it's because of him. Because the whole thing has an air of awkwardness. Like everyone doesn't quite know what they're doing because it's new. And he leans into that awkwardness.
Well, he's clearly testing the post SNL water. So he's been doing SNL for like 10 years. And so he's
going to host game shows. Well,
he's got to figure out what's next. He's not an actor. So what he might host game shows. It's a very lucrative way to make a lot of money in a very short amount of time.
It's easy work. Yeah. So
Beatles 64.
Yeah. So another Beatles documentary on Disney Plus. This one produced by Martin Scorsese. This one focuses on when the Beatles came to New York to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, and a short 3 or 4 week trip to the East Coast. This was fine. It was fun. There was a lot of really, really good behind the scenes footage of like them in the hotel room with Murray the K and like stuff like that. There's one, and I don't want to spoil this because Josh, I don't think you've seen it. Nope. There's one, you should see it there's one story that they tell throughout the documentary that is mind blowing.
Two lads.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That one got me.
And that's, if you ask me, that's the reason to watch it. So what they did was the format of this is that they pepper in all this footage that was shot while the Beatles were in New York, intermixed with talking head interviews with people who were quote unquote affected by the Beatles arriving in 64
or who were there
or who were there. And there's this one guy that they keep talking to, telling the story, and it ties back at the end where I was like, this is fantastic. So,
but also you just know when they had that interview, they were like, that's going to be the running theme through the thing. But like, there's nothing new under the sun. This is not going to show you anything you haven't seen before.
Oh, sure.
Or no,
there's a bunch of stuff I never saw before. I don't mean them goofing around the hotel room. I never saw before.
I mean, not literally, but like, there's no new ground being broken here.
Do you getting any sense of the any tension, anything between?
It's not yet. They're still young.
I will say the opening, the first few minutes is all Kennedy. Right, and then he dies, and then the Beatles come. But like the first 10 minutes, I was like, I'm gonna run through a wall for Jack Kennedy. Like it was like they really built him up so they show you how affecting it was when he gets assassinated and why this is so important.
And why this is so important when they arrive and stuff like that. And there's some there's some fantastic New York City, Long Island girl interviews outside the hotel, like why they're fan, like, I just love them. Like it's just like there's some fantastic like
it's great stuff. Like when they go to Harlem and they're like, do you like the Beatles? And it's like really interesting. It's totally worth watching.
They said how everybody's going crazy at the Waldorf and trying to get a glimpse of them, and Ronnie Spector snuck them out and took them up to Spanish Harlem, and they were walking around. Nobody knew who they were and couldn't care less. Like it was really interesting to see how like in one area they can't get away without being chased, but then they just go up to Harlem and nobody cares who they are. Like it was fascinating.
Yeah, there was good stuff in there. It was worth watching.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, totally worth watching.
Careful.
I could not watch Girls Gone Wild: The Untold Story on Peacock, a 3-episode docuseries about behind the scenes of Girls Gone Wild. It was hard not to, where we were in the media landscape coming out of college when DVDs were prevalent and Girls Gone Wild was just out there and was a thing. It was really interesting to hear the behind the scenes of them as a company and like what they were doing and just how much of a scumbag Joe Francis is. And this includes audio from an interview that he gave recently, and you hear his side of a lot of the controversies and things like that, and it's just this deplorable human being. And they had a lot of girls that were on the videos who talk about the impact it had on their life and like all the ramifications of it, and it was just kind of like, how you can't look away from a car wreck. It was that kind of feeling. So
yikes.
Yeah.
On the opposite side of the spectrum, I enjoyed the fuck out of Yacht Rock. What was really funny about it was I watched it in two segments, and in between I went shopping, like a bunch of errands, and every store I went into, I heard something from the movie being played. It's just so prevalent. Maybe it's a Southern California thing.
Well, what I think
Michael McDonald is everywhere.
What I think is so fascinating about the Yacht Rock documentary is
it was so fun though.
It was a great documentary. They did a really good job. It's on Max. And from a music standpoint, Josh, did you watch this or
no?
You should check it out.
Lower on my radar
because it's really interesting about the examining a time period of the late 70s to early 80s, when not only did yacht rock as a genre like dominate the charts and Doobie Brothers and stuff like that were popular, but it was kind of like the Wrecking Crew in the 60s. There was this group of session musicians who played, and that there's one.
I'm aware of.
They show it in the documentary a couple times visually, where like the guys from Toto also played on Michael Jackson Thriller and did this and show all the records that they worked on at the time period. I thought that was really fascinating.
There's that one bass player with like the long beat. I can't think of his name, but
But the other thing that I find fascinating, just as a cultural movement, is the fact that, it is a genre that was defined 30 years after it happened.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to say, I'd never heard that phrase.
The term came about from a comedy group that made a web series making fun of the groups, and they called it.
But as soon as you hear it, you go, "I know what that is."
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole premise of what they said, right? And it was funny because it's like when you think about music scenes, so many music scenes define themselves in the moment, and this scene didn't. It was
easy listening.
We defined it easy listening after the fact, but for them it was pop music at the time. Pop music in 1979 was Michael McDonald. Like that's what it was, right? And it's interesting to see
this started with the 40-year-old virgin.
The posthumous, kind of looking back and assigning the genre to it was really interesting. The only negative I think with the whole yacht rock thing, and they touch on it slightly in the documentary, is just all the annoying people now who like it ironically. Who think that it's funny, like who like it as a punchline and like dress up like the yachts and all that kind of bullshit. Like that's the stuff that awful. Sullies it. But like
as a music documentary, it's really fun. The music's interesting, and then it has I think the best button on a documentary I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So
very good,
Josh. I think you will really enjoy it. It's really fun, and it like Ron says, it shows you all these connections. You had no idea that Toto was basically the Wrecking Crew. Yeah, that band was basically playing everyone's records.
Steve Lukather.
Yep, Lukather. They have him. He's in the documentary. They talk to him.
I mean, as like a guitar people, Sklar is Sklar's Leon Sklar. Leo, I forget, that's the bass player. Sklar.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really fun documentary.
Yeah.
I was very upset. The Grand Tour ended this year. And there's been many, but I've been a Top Gear fan for a long time. I understand that Clarkson's maybe not the greatest man on earth, but he's an extremely good TV presenter. And I've been watching Clarkson's Farm all along, and I mean, he's good at making TV, so it's awfully good at making him seem like a human, and that he's learning things about the world. As far as I can tell, he's really working this farm that he bought and does now, and he has groups of people there. And I thought the first season was really interesting, but the third season was sort of like he's been there for a while, he's doing it, he has relationships with the people who he works with, so like his farm manager Caleb, and then I don't remember his name, but there's another man who always tells him all the laws he's breaking, and then his girlfriend. And it's a weird ongoing, it's reality TV, but there's sort of the drama that keeps packing up, and spends a lot of time with animals. There's very graphic shots of pigs being born and stuff. So they're like, here you are on the farm doing this thing. And it's really interesting. They talk a lot about the money, and like they like in detail to be like, we spent this much, we made this much profit. Like he works the farm for an entire year, he invests all of this money into it, and like their profit is £75,000, which is like not enough to live on. And so there's a lot of, like, this is not a sustainable, like, what are we gonna do for food? So that's underlying. But it's also funny, and it's also just like, it's interesting. You're looking at British country farm people, and that's interesting on its own. It's good if if you liked Top Gear. There's certainly something here. It's much more down to earth, literally. But yeah, the third season was great.
Cool. I was looking for something like literally like the day after Christmas, and I had to do laundry, and the kids weren't home, and I'm like, I just want to watch something not, that I can do in the background. And I discovered on Paramount Plus a 6-episode docuseries called Mafia Spies.
That's a compelling poster.
It's a compelling poster. Now, here's the thing. This is a 6-episode docuseries adapted from the book of the same title, outlining from the fall of Cuba, Castro taking over Cuba in the late 50s, and the fall of the mafia being involved in Cuba, up through the Bay of Pigs and beyond, right? And talks about the relationship between the mafia and the U.S. government and how it ties into Cuba and Kennedy and Giancana and all that sort of stuff. So like right in our wheelhouse, right? A third of the documentary is talking head interviews with some really, really, really good people, like some the guy who wrote the book, Chris Matthews, is in it from MSNBC because he wrote a book on Bobby Kennedy. Some other talking heads like historians and things like that. They have Sam Giancana's daughter, right? So like they really, really good talking head interviews. A third of the series is archival footage, which is there was some shit. There's some shit of Jack Kennedy that I've seen that I've never seen before. Like the press conference where John Kennedy took responsibility for Bay of Pigs. I never saw that press conference before. It was just fascinating to see that. And then the last third,
guess what the third is.
Last third is actor portrayal reenactments of the story they're telling, which are rough.
I cannot do that in any documentary that happens.
I know. And they keep using some of the same clips over and over because they only shot so many. If you can get over that, the archival footage and the talking head interviews and the time period and the story that's telling, I've learned so much about Cuba and the Bay of Pigs, like stuff like I knew what we learned in school and I knew from his history level and JFK, but like way more about the mafia's involvement, the ins and outs, who was talking to who, how it was happening, and how stuff was related. Really, really, really fun and just a good way to spend an hour. So,
were they spying for the government? Is that why they're mafia spies?
Yeah, because I mean, the CIA hired them.
They use them a lot
to kill Castro. Yeah, and then that's the whole thing. They hired them. They hired them to kill Castro, and then Kennedy takes office, and Bobby Kennedy goes after the mafia, and they're like, "What are you doing? We thought we were good." And this is why they killed Kennedy in Texas. So, yeah.
Finally, if you need a good cry, Queer Eye came back for its 9th season on Netflix. The first introducing the newest one member of the team. The designer Bobby left famously last season after clearly not getting along with the rest of the cast for 8 seasons. So they have a new guy.
That happened on camera?
No, but it was the press and behind the scenes stuff, and they just if you had all followed it, they just didn't get along.
And yet Karamo's still there for some reason.
Well, the thing is, like, and what he said was, I'm doing a lot of fucking work, and these guys are just hanging out and drinking the entire time. But the new guy is really good, and it was really interesting because his name escapes me at this very moment. But clearly not prepared for the emotional toll doing the show because he's clearly used to working for really high-end rich clients, and dealing with regular people who start crying because they're so thankful for what he did for them is not something he was prepared for. And it was really touching to watch him fall in love with the job itself. But Jeremiah is his name. Really good. All set in Vegas, showgirls, people working in casinos, people just in the town. It was a good season. It was a really good season. So if you needed a good cry, I had one watching this. Queer Eye on Netflix season 9. This show's gone on twice as long as the original series went on.
Yeah, I fell off of it at some point.
You can jump on it in here.
Yeah, I know. Lindsay was actually literally watching this downstairs before I came up here.
It was good. But
that new guy it looks like a model. He's a beautiful man.
He's very handsome. He's got great hair. He's the one on top of the jackpot in the poster. But yeah. And Anthony clearly does nothing but work out now. So
yeah.
Anyway, those are the shows. Those are the shows and the movies we watched over the break.
A lot. It was fun. I feel entertained.
I feel like there's got to be something. I've got things to watch myself now. I think I might check out Mafia Spies.
I will say, yeah, check out Mafia Spies if you can get over the acting. One thing that we didn't mention that I'm in the middle of watching is Say Nothing on Hulu, which we'll probably talk about in the next show. So
I want to say people are going to go, how do you have time to watch all this stuff? I am asking that question also. They watched a lot more than me. It was
well, I was on break from my jobs, so what else am I gonna do?
Well, yeah, we just once the kids go to bed, I try to at least watch an hour of something. So it's
I had 2 weeks off. I had nothing to do for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I didn't go visit my family. I stayed at home and watched. I went to the movies. So there you go. Amazing. That's our Mediasplode for January. We'll be back in February, but until then, you can write into contact@ifanboy.com. If you have an email for this show, you can put Mediasplode in the title. As always, you can check out all of our podcasts on ifanboy.com. All of our 20 years of podcasting is there. Almost all of it. Let's say 90% of it's there. Also, we're on youtube.com/ifanboy. You still put our pick of the week show up there, but now we're putting all of our shows in glorious Technicolor, shot on VistaVision. You can watch the show now. You can see
in full 4K
the sights and the sounds of the Mediasplode on YouTube. You can see the posters and all the shows we talked about. It's a fully immersive experience. 3D, 4K, all of it.
It's spatial. It's amazing. We're using Dolby Atmos. So
we're on Instagram. We're on Threads. We're on Blue Sky. You can find us there. And Ron, tell us about your other podcast.
Yeah, if you're into mobile phones and technology and stuff like that, check out my other podcast, Android Faithful, over at androidfaithful.com, where we're talking about Android phones and tablets and laptops and general technology, mobile technology in the world. So over at androidfaithful.com.
Well, that was it. That was fun, guys. I'm glad we're back.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're back.
Let's look forward to the Oscar. Once the Oscar noms come, I think they're probably next month. We'll do the Oscar noms episode, and it'll be fun. We're back on, Josh. We're back on the hamster wheel. Another year of me talking about TV and movies.
Have to come to that one? Each year, you guys care more, and I care less.
Well, it depends on what's nominated.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any. I feel like I haven't seen a movie in 2 years.
I mean, those are choices you're making. Those are choices you're making. It's like,
no.
Which, by the way, I'm very disappointed we're not talking about Sonic 3 because I've seen the trailer so much. My kids are obsessed with watching trailers.
Is the same review that I gave Sonic 1,
which was,
not great. Cyclops is surprisingly good.
Marsden
Jim
is good.
Carrey's surprisingly good.
Yeah,
that's it.
My son was sick a couple of like a week ago, and I was home with him, and he's like, "Can we watch the Sonic movie?" I'm like, "Sure, fine," because for some reason I haven't been letting him watch it, and then we put it on, and we made it about like 40 minutes. He's like, "Can you turn this off?" It's like, "Sure." So there's your review.
All right, we'll be back next month. See you then. Until then, I'm Connor.
I'm Ron.
I'm Josh. Bye.